Clouds on Mars Products, a place where you begin your journey with innovative, visionary, and easy to implement solutions for your business.
One of the core principles of Agile is fail fast. But when you think about operating data, it's quite common that data does not fail fast. They fail silently. In other words, you don't even know that there is a problem with your data. Imagine this. There is a procurement team that enters a lead time for a product, for SKU. Someone entered 300 days, but validation passed. No alerts, no flag. Everything seems to be okay. But in reality, it's 14 days. Results? Emergency shipment had to be organized to fulfill clients' needs. We will talk about failing fast on purpose. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to Clouds on Mars Products. This is a series in which we talk about real business challenges, product solutions that we deliver as Clouds on Mars to our clients. In this series, we also talk about problems that our clients put in front of us in order for us to think how we can solve them. Today, we will talk about GODI, a tool that helps improve quality of data. My name is Marcin Kubica. I'm head of product at Clouds on Mars, and I'm joined by Ola Gepert, consulting lead at Clouds on Mars. Ola, very good to have you here today.
Hi, everyone. My name is Aleksandra, and I've spent several last years helping organizations define strategy goals and fail fast while testing the assumptions that we've made. So GODI is exactly this kind of tool. It makes your data fail fast, so your business doesn't have to do that. And I will be happy to tell you more about this implementation that we did. Thank you.
Every organization we have talked with have some kind of data quality systems in place. They have various validations. For example, they implement some database validations, some business rules. Sometimes there are thousands of them. One of our clients, a global FMCG company, has over 5,000 business rules in their system, and yet bad data keep coming to the system. And there are a couple of reasons why validation is not enough. First of all, rules are never complete. They only catch a certain number of scenarios. You cannot really invent all the possible scenarios that should be detected by the business rules. Second, the rules become outdated because business changes and rules need to change with the business. And also, there is a third element related with these business rules. Data can be technically correct, but when you take under consideration the context, they are not correct. They are not meaningful. Let's discuss a real case. Imagine a procurement team that manages thousands of components, thousands of SKUs. They are coming from dozens of suppliers, and there is a person who needs to update the master data, a person that needs to put into the system a lead time for producing or delivering a component, and this person enters 300 days instead of 14 days, which is the reality. Systems say, okay, pass. But these components always arrive in 14 days. So if someone makes this kind of mistake, then the planning team has to trigger some emergency orders. A lot of work needs to be done to fix this kind of problem. Someone perhaps needs to put production on hold because there is an error. There is a lot of problem with this kind of mistakes. Ola, should I call you Ola or Aleksandra? What do you prefer?
Ola is fine. It's faster to say, so it's okay.
So Ola, you've been working with customers for years. You work as a consulting lead. What kind of challenges do you actually see on the ground? What makes this problem harder than it really looks?
First of all, you already mentioned that data is passing validation, but validation rules are built around if the format is correct or it looks good, so I'm passing it. Yeah, of course, I'm making it very simple right now. I don't want to go to too many details, but the structure is taken into consideration by the validation tools. The data is wrong in the context, and the context is super crucial here, because as we enter this AI phase, let's say we are here for several years actually already, because back in time it was named machine learning. And right now, of course, we also have generative AI. But in this particular case, we will be talking about machine learning and how it can help with this kind of issues. So the first thing is the structure. The other thing is related with the organization processes, because we like to think that everything can be automated and stuff will happen by themselves. Yeah. So this data validation tools, they would just make it happen. Yeah. I will have less data to check. But the problem is that we don't know if the data underneath is correct in the context of our organization at this particular moment only. Yeah. So what I see as a problem is that organizations are always so eager to act on something, like to do something, fix something at this moment. But there is no process that is supporting people to make changes easily. This is all that we talk about for years, that agile actually, it's not, Scrum, Kanban, or any other fancy word, but agile is a possibility to make changes easily, smoothly. This is what we need. And through all these years that I'm working with clients, and these are, startups, big organizations, very structured, yeah, with many, many people, like 100,000 people on board, they all are struggling with the same thing. So context is missing somewhere between the lines.
And this is how we come up with GODI, Governed Operational Data Improvement. It's a framework in which organizations may work to correct their data, to improve their data. Well, there is a certain gradual process that improves over time. We will get there in a moment. So when we think of GODI, there are several layers that can be implemented as ways to improve data. First of all, is something that we mentioned at the beginning. There are business rules. So there is a structural validation. So you can basically check whether the number is in the range between 1 and 1,000, for example, right? That's an example of a business rule. Then there is a second layer. The system analyzes the historical data and based on the history can verify or flag if a data is out of the context, that from historical perspective data seems to be incorrect. So that's the layer number 2. Layer number 3, how does the records of a similar category look like? So you basically can compare a data point with another records from the same category. And again, if there is an anomaly, then the GODI may flag and bring users' attention to this data point in order to correct, to verify. And then the fourth layer is the closed feedback loop. So GODI learns over time and can adjust its behavior to whatever was provided by users to the system. So the quality of judgment by GODI is improved over time. Ola, can you elaborate? What more can we say about GODI from your perspective and the implementation that we actually did for one of our customers?
Sure. So as Marcin said, the rules are still there, the business rules and all kind of validation scenarios that your organization has. So our clients had many of them and we treated them as guardians. Yeah, rules were the guardian. So they've been standing before and after the model to ensure that only valid data is processed. So if you think like, hey, so what about all these validation rules? Are they gonna go away? Not at all. We still need to have them. But as said before, their level of complex is strictly deterministic. So yes or no. And then once we take the batch of data that is already valid, we can start to work. So the first step after that, after quality detection, the second one is analysis and user verification. So model, what is very important to say, is trained only on the validated data. It is not coming up with another new business rules without any control. So as Marcin said, we took into consideration all the historical data that passed validation and were released to production. So we can check the context, as exactly like Marcin said. As the model was already starting to learn the contextual relationships like vendor type, product, time, the model, give some recommendations to the user. But they don't look like, hey, this is wrong, you need to fix it. But the system is saying, hey, it doesn't look like the usual value for this kind of data. Are you sure this is correct? And we have 3 levels of learning. So the first one is the data operator that is receiving the notification is just accepting. Human is in the loop all the time. The system is built around human because we need system to help us and not to replace us. That's the difference. He is accepting. Yeah, that's the first level. Machine learning model is already learning from it. Okay, it looked bad, but it's actually good in the context. Then we have the second level where the user, the data operator, is actually correcting the information that system is giving. So it was a good detection from the system. So this is the second level, means that actually it worked. And the third level is when the data operator needs to escalate because the system is giving a notification that he's not aware of if this is good or not. So this is like a corner case. And the most beautiful in this setup is that even if the model is wrong, it is a solid ground for learning. There are no typical yes or no's here anymore. It's more about, are we correct in this particular moment? And for the third level, the machine learning, let's say that it had to go to the data operator, he didn't know, had to go further. And this is actually still correct. So the model was not correct. This is the strongest way for the model to learn. It's like the biggest driver that the system can get. So, taking us from this manual checks, you know the story, right? Client has exactly the same, our client, I mean, that we've built GODI for. The situation was that every time there were some corner cases, yeah, and they've been detected much later than they should be detected. Somebody fixed it. Of course, there were some things to fix in another processes, in another business domains, because as you remember this example from the beginning, it was already served somewhere. So let's say some forecasts were already built upon the fact that the usual 13 days order lead time is right now 300. Nobody cares if this is true or not. I mean, the data validation rules, yeah? So what would happen without GODI? Somebody would fix it, and that's it. Because there is no clear or easy way to update the information in the system the same time when you are seeing an error. I'm sure that every one of you at least once been a part of some kind of postmortem. Then we have like a call with everybody. We are going through the details of the incident. And then we are preparing some kind of like postmortem documentation. And you know what is happening with all these documents. They are still somewhere without the connection, without the context. They are just lying around. Sometimes somebody will notice them, sometimes not, because there is no way to input the lessons learned into the system right away. And right now, with GODI, it's possible.
So Ola, you're saying two things. That's what I hear. First of all, we move the moment of detecting that something is wrong as early in the process as possible, and we help a person, a human. We let this person know that, well, you need to pay extra attention to what you've just entered, or maybe what has been entered by machine, whatever, right? But there is a human who is alerted very early that perhaps something is wrong. There may be a different level of confidence, but there is a flag, right? So there is an action that can be implemented in a given way, which helps preventing problems down the stream, right? Because this data is later used for various decisions and creating various reports and,
it becomes a source.
We have a data for reason, right? It's a source of information for decisions that are made later. So we are actually helping detect it way earlier than when looking at the report and saying, hey, there is something wrong with this report. But then you are talking about the second element, that there is this learning loop that helps improve this whole situation, right? You said that there is a root cause analysis after something happens. We have some learning, but is it really implemented in the process? Well, sometimes we implement it, sometimes we take those extra steps to improve our processes, but sometimes it's difficult. GODI is automating this process, right? If something happens, then GODI learns itself that, okay, next time, maybe I will correct it automatically. Well, there are different scenarios that are implemented in GODI, but there is this closed feedback loop that actually improves GODI over time.
Yeah, that's correct.
All right, let's discuss the implementation at our customers. So let's say that there is someone who would like to onboard GODI in their processes. What does client onboarding look like? Can you describe this process?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the process is actually similar to majority of our projects. So we always start with the POV, so proof of value, because we don't want our clients to click through some demo. We need to work on the real data, the real business processes. So first thing, let's say that the POV usually takes 3 months. And after those 3 months, the client is already getting at least one business flow in production. So they can already see results. And after those 3 months, always our clients are receiving a full implementation plan that we are able to prepare for them because we already learned their processes and we worked with their data. So this is typically 3 months. And very important to say here, this is a project that needs a very strong support from both business and IT, I would say, because it is changing a little bit or even a lot, a mindset that people have, that the system is not built to catch them, that, hey, you didn't catch this error, like you are not the best person to do the job. No, it is helping people to feel secure that changes are normal.
Ola, if I may interrupt,
Sure.
before we go too far, let's unpack a couple of things that you mentioned. So you've started talking about what needs to happen to have a success in the implementation. It's often that we discuss the happy path, but let's discuss unhappy path. So my question is, what is the most common reason that implementation fails? What needs to happen so GODI will not be implemented properly? What's your take or what's your experience with our customers?
Mm-hmm. The most common reason is not actually technical, it is organizational, because the system needs humans in the loop to work. So if the data operators, the people that are daily working with the data, daily working within the process, will not understand why it's there, why we need the system, they will feel rather judged than supported, and they will just stop engaging, which means that the system will stop learning. So I would say that it was always a threat for any project, that there is no proper process built around it, around this implementation, and people have been feeling left alone. Yeah, and right now with the AI stuff, I think it's even more and more important because of all these automatizations, all these things that we can do. These are actually mind-blowing. We can actually have time and focus on the most important part of the process, which is relationship between people that are working together. So we have time to make them understand, make them feel happy about those changes, make them feel like we support them during their daily tasks. So technicalities, of course, we can, see around that the connection is failing. We can't really get the good results from the model, but it is not a failure. It is just a hint that we are getting to get there, because technically almost everything is possible, depending on how much time and budget you have, of course.
Let's build on that. For sure, when we implement GODI, there are moments when we have a data operator, and data operator may have a certain intuition, oh, this is good or bad. But now we have a system that has access to way more data than any human can have. And this system starts flagging certain things. So how do you convince a data operator to accept the system's suggestions over their own intuition? How to build this trust to the machine learning vehicle that those operators, they at least should take under consideration what the system says?
Yeah, I like to say that we don't actually convince anyone, because the system is never overriding data on its own. And I mentioned it before that we only work on the validated data already. So this is like the reservoir of data that the data operator is also working on. It's their daily ecosystem. So the operator is actually not asked to trust the system. They are asked to evaluate its suggestions. They can be as rude as they want. They can actually pick up everything that they don't like. And this is great. This is perfect approach because every decision that the data operator will make, accept, edit, or escalate, feeds back into the system and makes the system smarter, not because a system is smart on its own. It's smart thanks to people that are working in it. So
Exactly.
it's the system is shaped by people's judgment, and they can never be taken out of the picture. Never. When we started discussing this GODI internally, I remember the team saying like, yeah, is this actually good approach, because all these people will think that they will be replaced. But it's not the case. Think about so many things that you could do at work. We are all so creative people and we just don't have time. Yeah, because again, I need to fix the same thing because there is no time for the other team to get rid of this error, blah, blah, blah. It's a very common scenario. And right now with GODI, we can get rid of it once and for all. It's pretty
Very
exciting,
nice.
I would say.
Very good. Very nice thought. Thank you very much, Ola, for bringing this as well. It's a component that we always need to discuss and have in mind when we bring automation to the business process. All right,
Exactly.
let's discuss the numbers. So can you bring some of the experience from the implementations we've had? What are the numbers that our customers seeing after implementation of GODI? Can you throw a couple of them?
Sure. So the first thing is that more than almost 90%, 89.7 of the system recommendations were correct while we did the implementation. I'm sure that you already know that it doesn't make any sense because there is no context to this number. I didn't tell you how much data we've been working on and etc. It was really hard to say the one number that would show what was the quality score, but it was more than 90% after we've been doing recalculations, because during the implementation, actually we found out together with client's team. By the way, just one comment, the client team needs to work very closely with the development team in this particular case, because we need to test and challenge the business rules even all the time. Because some part of the results that were false positive, they were actually showing that the business rules are not updated. You could think that it's a bad sign. No, it's just the start of discussion around where we are now, how our context changed. You could think that this is a bad sign because I think that we sometimes want system to be always right or people to be always right. And it's not like this, yeah? So this is like a start of conversation, very valuable for the client's organization, that we need to define the business rules maybe sometimes again. And the false positive rate was around 3%. And the accepting rate of the changes were between 70 to 90%. However, this, data baseline was changing due to those things that I just said. But what was the most important for this project was that client could see with every iteration that the model is giving better results. So this is how the system built trust in them. So they wanted to do more, to bring more iterations of tests.
Thank you very much, Ola. So let's discuss as a last element of our conversation, what is the ultimate effect of bringing systems like GODI? How the entire business improves thanks to GODI?
I like to think that GODI is like a perfect representation of how Agile could look like in the data-heavy environments. We don't claim that something is correct because it passed validation. It is correct because it makes sense. And we all know how making sense can be challenged, can be redefined, can be changed. This is a constant change all around the business flow. We accept it and we built a solution that serves its purpose to make the change possible in the least harmful way. So we can build trust around the teams. There will be no more. This is like my ideal scenario. And I think that we are actually going there with our clients to get rid of the silos once and for all. I'm sure that everyone who ever read Event Storming would smile right now, because actually we can build a technical solution for the problem that we've built by ourselves. So we can get rid of silos, we can work together, merge the people. That is actually what GODI is bringing.
My additional thought on that is that you nicely mentioned that, well, teams can really have a discussion about the data that they have. Also, one of the ultimate improvements, thanks to GODI, is that we do have systems that rely on data. And very often in business intelligence, in data analytics world, we say the one source of truth, right? So it's a place where we have data that we can rely on. And we know that on this data, we build applications, reports, we make decisions, and so on. So GODI helps improve the source of truth, right? So we can not only trust that the data processing done by machines are correct, but now we also make sure that the entry point is corrected whenever entry needs to be corrected. So it improves tremendously the efficiency, the performance of the end products of data and analytics. To recap, Ola, if you are to say one thing or mention one thing that we would leave our audience with when you think about the GODI as a solution, GODI as an implementation project, what would it be? What do you appreciate GODI for?
I know how it is hard to make a change. Alongside with being a consulting lead, I've been a project manager all my life, and I've been managing change all the time. And I think that GODI is making this discussion about change so much easier, because during this whole course of implementation, we can actually see how mature our organization is. Are there people that are not afraid to say, hey, this is not correct, we need to fix it? And we don't need to fix it in 4 years. We can fix it now. But we need to deal with the fact that, oh boy, there will be many errors after we will go into that path. But I think it's worth it. This is what I would say. Don't be afraid to challenge the things that you do in your organization. We can help you with that. It's a very valuable journey every time with every client.
Thank you. My takeaway from this discussion about GODI is that I love the fact that GODI is built around humans. It is built with humans in the process and definitely for humans. So it is to improve data that humans eventually use. And I like the fact that GODI improves over time. This continuous improvement is built in GODI as a solution. And I think that's the beauty of this tool. So once again, GODI is a governed operational data improvement. It's a framework that improves the data in your organization. Ola, thank you very much for being with me today.
Thank you.
So if you are facing a business challenge related to data, analytics, automation, or AI, and you would like to share this with us, we would be happy to consider that. You can stay in touch with Ola or with me. Here you have our LinkedIn profiles. LinkedIn is the best way to contact us, and we will be happy to continue conversation with you. If you are watching this on YouTube, please make sure that you subscribe Clouds on Mars channel. Also, you can follow us on LinkedIn. You can follow our Clouds on Mars page, so you can be notified about other ideas that we come up with, and make sure that your data make an impact. Let your data make an impact. Thank you. See you next time.